If you've ever spent time in the ghostwriting communities on Reddit, you may have noticed a huge demand for hip hop ghostwriting. This is a world that I knew existed, but a niche I knew nothing about. Bryson White is a hip hop and R&B ghostwriter, here to tell us about his work and potentially ruin some of your favorite songs by telling you how they get. Welcome to Notes from a Ghost, a podcast about stories and the people who tell them. My name is Charlie, and I'm a ghostwriter. I love a good story. I hope you enjoy this one. Bryson, thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So, I mentioned in the intro, um, I was really interested to see how many people are looking for hip hop ghostwriting on Reddit. Tell me a little bit about the demand that's out there. What are people looking for? Why do people need that?
Well, I have to say the demand is typically high, and it's not because rappers or singers can't write their own music, or it's not because they're not good at doing so. It's more because they don't have the time to sit down and actually create lyrics if they're out, performing or doing shows or promotional things. And this is where us ghostwriters would come in.
And is that I've got more questions later about the process, but is that generally collaborative? Would you'd kind of sit down and write with them, or you would go away and write with input from them, or how does that work?
Typically, the artist would, tell me what they need. We'll talk about the beats and, things of that nature. And I would go away, work, and then get back with the artist later on.
I think that's like even with books, that's a big misconception that ghostwriting means that you're just doing it and they're like signing a check and they have nothing to do with the process, but
Right,
it's they're still in there somewhere, I would imagine.
right.
Um, Now, now this is just like pure curiosity, but I know like as a nonfiction book ghostwriter, I'm always bursting people's bubbles about celebrity books and self-help books. And most people don't know that like almost all of them are ghostwritten. Um, when you're talking about hip hop at the level of like, or maybe music in general, at the level that like stuff everyone has heard, how much of that is ghostwritten?
Some of the most popular songs there are, in hip hop and R&B aren't written by the artists themselves. I mean, sometimes they're written by ghostwriters, sometimes even by other artists and singers. Like one of my favorite R&B songs is now "Snooze" by SZA. One of the most popular songs on the radio right now. It's actually written by an Nickelodeon star, Leon Thomas. He actually played on the TV show Victorious, and he actually wrote part of that song. Yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah,
wild.
right,
And I would imagine, I mean, I guess kind of like with books, sometimes there is a little bit of clout for like working with, like you wouldn't, it wouldn't be just like this dirty secret that you worked with a writer, that there's some people where their profile might actually raise yours.
right.
Um, that's cool. And
Yeah.
the other scenario I'm picturing is that there might be artists where something they've written, it's really not on brand or what for whatever reason, and they're comfortable writing it for someone else. I can
Right.
think of I think like the Rolling Stones, some of their early songs were they thought they weren't like tough enough, and so they gave them away to other artists.
Yeah. Yeah. It happens like that too sometimes. Yeah.
Um, and so like getting into kind of just what is driving that demand, and like the two genres that where there seems to be a lot of ghostwriting and a lot of professional songwriting going on are hip hop and country. And it seems like the common denominator with those is that there's a lot of storytelling in both of those genres. Um, and that seems to be a rarer skill than just writing a song. Do you think that there's something to that?
Actually, yes. Anyone in my eyes, can, put together some lyrics and, just make a song. As long as they have a nice beat or something like that, they can make a song. But to take the emotion that you feel and a actual story and put it into lyrics and actually have it make sense and, touch home, it's it's uh it's very underrated. Not a lot of artists can do that.
Is there a iterative drafting process with that? Do you go back and forth to try to get that? Because
Yes.
it seems to be what people want in their music, like across the board.
Yeah. Like I will typically have a conversation with the artist before, actually writing their song. I've had artists even vent to me sometimes like, hey, I'm going through this is going on, and I'll just take the emotion that they feel and what they're telling me and I'll put it into a song. Yeah.
How do you get there with them? Do you have certain questions you like to ask?
Yes, I'll start off with, telling them like what I can do for them, of course, and from there I'll just ask them, yeah, what is it that you feel? What do you want to talk about in this song? What is the message that you want to give out? And sometimes I'll even ask them, do you have a specific, lyric or bar that you would want me to, put in the song?
And I would imagine like some of the editing probably happens like in those conversations because not everybody has really organized ideas, right?
Right.
Do you find that like I would imagine not everybody approaches that process with the same level of openness.
Yeah. It it can be a little tricky. Of course, like you said, if they're not as open as other artists, it'll be kind of difficult to, make it authentic, you know? And you kind of just kind of winging it a little, but you're trying to make it as authentic as possible. So if they're not giving the proper information, it can be difficult. Yeah.
And will you have to tell them that like
Yeah, sometimes I will have to reach out like, "Hey, I need a little something, this isn't enough for me to, make it you." You know what I mean?
when I think about like some of the music that I still listen to that I listened to growing up, like kind of early 2000s, like suburban kid hip hop for sure, but like stuff that a lot of the themes were like the same, but you would kind of show up for the way someone would put their own touch on it.
Right, right.
And I don't know, I feel like there's always something like I don't know, like Jay-Z spends a lot of time rapping about cars, but he does it better than all the other people who are rapping about cars.
Right, right.
And is it in the writing that is that why his music might connect in a way that someone else's might just sound like they're trying to be flashy or whatever?
Yeah, I guess it's all about delivery sometimes. I mean, if he delivers it in a better way or like you said, like his style of writing may be a little better than another artist, like you said, who's just trying to be, flashy or just talk about, you know, yeah.
Or I guess not writing. I remember reading, I think it was, I read his book a long time ago and he was saying something about getting out a pen and paper and pretending to write
Mhm.
because there was a producer who was nervous that he hadn't actually seen lyrics on a page and he didn't want to devote studio time to him basically just freestyling.
Yeah, yeah.
But he might be a bad example because of that's like a whole other level of
Yeah, there are great artists out there who don't need to write anything. They can just, okay, start the beat, let's get to it. And it's like, wow, you know what I mean? They didn't even have to, it's just right out the dome, you know?
I would imagine you've seen a lot of your stuff performed live.
Actually, I haven't. I
Really?
haven't. I do want to get there one day. I do want to get there one day, but I haven't. seen anything performed live yet. No.
What's the main reason somebody would want like I can understand somebody who's like a musician and it's like they're making an album, but there are other reasons people might want a track, right?
Um, yes and no. Most of the time it's either, they just, like I said, they don't have the time. But a lot of the times, yeah, it's someone wants to write a song for their girlfriend or something like that, and they don't know how to, put it in words for them or something of that nature. And that's, like I said, that's what we will come into play. And okay, cool. Tell me how you feel. What do you want to say? What's the message behind it? And we got you. Yep.
Do you work with somebody who is coming up with the beat, the music, and stuff like that, or are you strictly lyrics?
I'm strictly lyrics. A lot of the times the artist has a beat provided, and I'll just, have to go with the beat that they give me. Yep.
Does that how what's that like to work with? Is that challenging?
It can be tricky sometimes because, um, I have a specific sound. If they send a beat that is a little hard to connect with, or, um, hard to deliver what they want to the beat, I'll, listen out. Okay, let me see if I can find something that may sound a little better, or, you know, work out a little better than what they provided. And then if they like it, or, like I said, yeah, if they like it better, then we can go from there.
And have you had them like the worst version?
Yeah, I'll just have to go with it. I mean, hey, you're the client. I got you. That's what you want. That's what we'll have to do. Yeah.
There's a pretty well known ghostwriter who did some celebrity books and stuff, and I read an interview with him where he said like his mantra is it's not your fucking book. He has to remind himself of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so tell me like about your journey. Like how did you get into ghostwriting? When did you realize this was a thing? Were are you like do you write songs for yourself?
Actually, yes. As a kid, I always wanted to be that big rap star or R&B singer, and just wanted to be on stage in front of millions of fans, screaming my name, just being that guy, but as I got older, I started to realize things about myself that don't really line up with the childhood fantasy that I had. So, for instance, I don't really like being the center of attention. I'm one of those guys that would rather, make a lot of money or be behind the curtains and still be able to spend a lot of time with my wife, my kids, my family. But the passion that I have for music is so strong that I couldn't just push it away. So I started to notice that when reading lyrics and songs and looking at the credits behind the music, it isn't always just the artist. There's a team behind these tracks. There's producers, multiple songwriters, sometimes even other artists, like I stated before, which made me realize, I can be behind the scenes of a hit song one day and say, I wrote that song for that person, or I wrote part of that song. And I wanted that. So I was like, hey, I'm just gonna go for it. You know what I mean?
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I can remember I wanted to like write the great American novel or whatever, like a lot of people who decide they want to write books, and
Right.
that's not a very stable career path. Um,
Mhm.
and then there's this whole weird ghostwriting thing that's pretty great. Nobody really knows about it,
Right, right.
and that's a whole thing. I mean, that's true for musicians too. Like, there's a friend of a friend of mine who I'm trying to get on the podcast because he's just like an interesting dude. But he's a like a session guitarist and
Mhm.
studio, and so like his 9 to 5 is he plays guitar and he's on other people's
Yeah,
music and doesn't have to. He tours and stuff, but it's not he's not relying on that for income. He's not,
right,
get kicked out of the band or it- have fans decided he sold out or whatever.
right, right. That's nice. That's cool.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, like, I think about how I would have felt about that when I was like 12 or 13. I'd be like, what do you mean you don't get to be famous? But actually sounds very appealing now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and how you you're on Reddit, right? Like a lot of hip hop ghostwriters. How have you found that as a source of? It seems like all over the place.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have to give props to my fiance. Shout out to her. See, when I first started, I was trying to post like promotions on like Instagram, reach out to upcoming artists, and it was really a hassle. But my fiance, she was like, "Hey, I'm always on Reddit, researching questions and things like that, and I see people posting, their freelance services all the time." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna give it a shot." And believe it or not, I actually got most of my clients from Reddit. Yeah.
I love Reddit. It's it's such a good place for I mean pretty much anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Best answer usually wins.
Yep.
Um oh, that's cool. Yeah, I found it's really a mixed bag for books, but I think that would be kind of a weird place to go if you're looking for an entire book.
Mhm.
But there seems to be a lot of short form stuff. Anybody who's trying to write like LinkedIn articles or whatever, that's
Yeah.
definitely a good place.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, by the way, on getting engaged.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's that's exciting. Do you guys have a date?
Not yet. Not yet. Just taking our time.
Nice, nice. Um, so how like take me through the songwriting process? Like, had like I don't know. Let's say I'm like, okay, I want to write a song. Like, what do we do?
Well, let's see. The way I see it, man, it's like you gotta think about, you know, your favorite song, for instance. You know, how does it make you feel? You know, we don't just listen to music, we feel it. A happy song puts you in a good mood. A sad song makes you want to cry sometimes. Even a hype song makes you want to dance, or a love song and so forth. So music is filled with emotion. And for the majority of people, it's an outlet for what we're feeling inside. So when I communicate with artists, I'm not only writing a song for them, but I'm bringing their emotions to life. So, like I said, it's like, so pretty much starting off, it's about having that message in mind. What are you feeling? What do you want to say? And then from there, it's connecting to the beat. So when it comes to the beat, whatever melodies that I feel goes well, I'll voice memo it. Like I grab my phone, grab the voice recorder, and I just voice memo. I'm not saying any words. I'm just singing, just humming to the beat. And then from there, I'll connect my words later. And the reason I take my time with connecting my words is because most of the time, like I said, I like to tell a story, and I really want to make sure that the lyrics hit home. So that's pretty much how I write all of my music.
That's cool. I really like
Thank you.
that starting with the emotion.
Thank you. Thank you.
And are there ever people? Because I have learned the hard way to be really careful about showing people work in progress.
All
And
right.
because like I've talked about this on the podcast before. I had somebody they found like a typo in something I wrote. They were like, "Yeah, you were a professional writer," and
Oh, yeah.
I was like, "Dude," um, and I since then I've learned that it's a good idea to like let people know this is an early draft or whatever. But
And,
have you ever had someone have a like a strong reaction to the humming where they're kind of like,
yeah, see, I don't what I do is I try to wait, kind of hold it off until I come up with that, at least the first 30 seconds of the song, something like that before I send off the progress that I have. And from there, that's more of the reaction I would get. So sending off the humming would be like, okay, they can feel any type of way about it. But when I connect the lyrics is more when it's like, okay, I like this or I don't like this, and I can go ahead and change whatever they don't like, or you know what I mean?
mm-hmm. And do you have like is there a type? Did you have like a perfect client? Are there artists, some artists that you or like a dream client to work with?
A dream client. That's a good question. Honestly, I hear a lot about the whole Drake Ghostwriter situation, you know?
That's like been going. I haven't been following it, but you're the second person to bring that up on this podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
What's happening there?
A lot of people say, Drake doesn't write his own music, you know? But honestly, the music that I hear from Drake has influenced a lot of the R&B songs that I write today. So honestly, I have songs that would be perfect for Drake to sing himself. So I guess maybe even ghostwriting for Drake himself would be like a dream come true, a perfect client, you know?
Hmm. That's cool. I mean, it sounds almost like the way, because unlike something that's being written for the page, your words are going to be voiced by a person and they're going to live in a performance. It's in that way, it's almost a little like screenwriting or something where you probably
Right,
do have someone in mind, whether it's the person who hired you or like the person who would be perfect for that track.
right, right.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, sometimes I'll even like if I write a song, I can think about a specific artist, like Bryson Tiller, one of my favorite R&B artists right now. I could think about the way he may um write a song or do a song, and I'll kind of mimic it a little bit. And from there, it's like, okay, well, I know this song would be perfect for Bryson Tiller, and it could go that way for the artists who contact me or I contacted as well. You know what I mean? Listen to their other music that they have out, like the way that they sing, even the rhythm that's usually used in most of their songs. You know what I mean? Like things like that are pretty good ways for me to create a song for artists.
And when it comes to what you listen to, what's your like ultimate hot take, and what what's like a trend that you're excited about these days in?
Well, I gotta be honest. I'm more of an R&B guy.
Okay.
To be completely honest, I do feel like hip hop itself is dying, and I say that because most of the things that I hear on the radio or most mainstream artists, they're blowing up right now, and half of these artists wouldn't be who they are if it wasn't for the beat behind the song. And what I mean by that is these artists aren't talking about anything. They're not talking about anything that means something. I'm in the club, we're doing this, we're shooting people. Like there's no true meaning or message behind what these artists are putting out. And not only that, some of the things that are being said can put out bad energy, even wrongly influence the kids that are growing up knowing all the lyrics to the songs. And I'm not saying some of these songs are all that terrible because the beats are that's pretty much what brings it all together. You got a good beat with some bass, and most people really don't care what you talk about. They like the beat. Hey, I'm gonna play the song. But I have to say, me personally, I am more of a lyrical type of guy, like a J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar type of guy. These are my idols when it comes to hip hop, because if you really listen to what they're saying, there's a message, there's a story, and I feel like that's underrated right now.
It's so funny. That was my next question, like what's getting old? And because it seems like Kendrick Lamar is like the first artist in a long time where people are like fired up in a way that it
Yeah.
is actually kind of lasting. And that album that came out, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. It's the one where I think he's like holding his kid on the cover. It's like a very
Yeah.
artistic photo. What was the name of that one?
Um, I'm trying to remember.
Um, you know the one I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I could get out my phone and look it up, but whatever. I can remember my wife and I listened to that.
Oh, Mr. Morale.
That's
I think it was Mr. Morale. Yep.
that's it. And I just remember we listened to that like all the way through, and then we like listened to it again, and
Hmm.
it just it like took a second. It was like, what what are we here? This is
Yeah.
really good. This isn't
Yeah.
and I feel like with especially in the age of like streaming where you don't sit down and listen to a whole album or whatever, you don't get that very often.
Right. Yeah. I feel like it's art. Some people just put some music together, put it all in one project, and they call it an album. But some albums, like that one in specific, is art, you know?
mm. And yeah, it's interesting too. Like you mentioned, kind of negative themes, and I guess that's like putting it mildly when the theme is like, violence. But
You're
um,
right.
yeah, it's interesting how that seems to have had its moment, and then I think there's this. I don't know. Do you feel like there are artists kind of lost where they haven't moved on from that moment, but they know it's kind of old?
Yeah, there is. And um to be honest, I feel as though the artists that are doing the same thing, they're falling off a little bit, because most artists, like even the female rappers, they're starting to jump into these new things. They're not, talking about the same thing over and over and over and over and just in a different way in a song. You know what I mean? They're speaking about different things. They're putting out messages. They're even doing commercials and things like that now. You know what I mean? So I do feel like there are artists who are progressively, changing their music and the message that they're putting out, but there's also artists who are just stuck in their same ways. But
And cashing
yeah,
in some cases.
yeah, yeah,
It's interesting about R&B though, because is it fair to say that that's kind of coming back? Because I feel like it like late 90s, early 2000s, I'm totally dating myself. It really like had this moment where that's kind of all that was on the radio for a little while.
yep, yep,
And then I kind of can't remember anything between then and a little more recently. Is
yeah,
that right, or am I that's out of touch?
yeah. I mean, there were a few good songs, maybe in the 2010s, but yeah, recently R&B is starting to make a pretty big comeback. I think it's kind of the wave is just changing a little bit, and I think people are starting to dig it a little more.
The one thing going back to like storytelling and hip hop is like it seems to me that it's one of the few genres in music where you have like characters and personas. I mean, rock, you get that a little bit, country a little bit, but like, I don't know, sometimes hip hop groups can almost be like superheroes or comic book characters or pro wrestlers, where it's like I'm thinking specifically Wu-Tang Clan. Like that's not just a musical group, that's like a story universe with
You're right.
all sorts of like references to like it reminds me a little bit of like Led Zeppelin, where they're like referencing what they're reading and listening to, but they're also referencing their own stuff that you had to have heard if you're gonna kind of get the joke.
Right, right.
Um, have you found yourself in a position where somebody has you writing something and the purpose is to like kind of put it into a body of work where it needs to kind of work with something else? Like, have you written a whole album for someone? Have you done a follow up to something that someone else did? I would imagine that standalone songs are almost like an exception.
Right. So I think I understand what you're saying. Like if you're writing a song, and you follow up with the next song and you mention something in this second song that you would have had to hear the first song to know what the artist is talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think and maybe almost like reply to it, I guess.
Right, right.
Like or level it up somehow, or
Mhm.
you're kind of creating the next moment, I guess.
Right, right, right. Yep.
And Well, I can edit out the part where I'm like thinking. I feel like this was
No, no, you're good. You're good.
this is where I had a question. Um, but oh, the other thing I was going to ask, like, if someone is in the studio, are you like, do you finish writing and you deliver the lyrics and you wish them luck, or are you kind of available to rewrite when they're recording?
It depends. I'm not really there. Of course, I'm not there physically. Some artists, they have my phone number. When they're recording, they're like, "Hey, and we can kind of talk about it on the phone as they're recording." Or, like you said, I can just send them the lyrics, and the audio recording of the demo, and just, hey, all right, just make sure send me the version that you do when you complete the song, and I would love to hear it. And that's pretty much it from there.
Nice. So you have had a chance to hear those like final.
I have, I have.
That's cool. That
It's it's pretty cool. And it's just like, wow, I don't know. Sometimes I can't even, I don't even know. I don't even know. Like when I send the song to them and they send it back, it's just like, wow, you know what I mean? I
I
can't
think it
even
kind of goes
explain it.
back to what you're saying about being the man behind the scenes is actually more satisfying because if you're up on stage singing the song, it's like, well, yeah, of course, it's your song. I see you singing it. Mm, but that like sort of private moment of like, oh, like I wrote that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
No matter how big you get, I don't know if you get to enjoy that in exactly the same way if you were to say hear your own song on the radio or whatever.
Right, right.
That's cool. Um,
Yeah, man.
well, Bryson, thanks for talking to me. This is a really, I think a lot of people are going to be really interested to know that this even exists and that that R&B hip hop ghostwriting is a thing. Um,
Yeah, man. Thank you.
well, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram at I am Bryson W. Um, that's pretty much all I have as of now. I'm trying to get a website created, and things of that nature, just to kind of keep that promotion going. But other than that, I am on Reddit as well. I am Bryson W. And LinkedIn, just kind of how you found me. Bryson White. Yep.
Sounds good. Well, thanks again, and yeah, like look forward to hearing some tracks and like guessing if maybe you had a hand in writing them.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Good stuff. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, man. You too.
If you have an epic story, I'd love to hear it. You can find me at dailyprose.com or on LinkedIn. My links and Bryson's are in the show notes. Thanks for listening.